So here we are in the Independent's lobby office in Parliament. David Maddox here, political editor, joined by Kate Devlin, my colleague, the Whitehall editor, and for today, as we are kind of detectives in three vast volumes of papers, I've seen nothing like it.
The Mandelson
yeah,
files.
just show our
This is
viewers.
one of them. There are three of these in terms of evidence from this.
So it's the kind of Devlin and Maddox Detective Agency which we're going to go through. The first thing I'm going to say is, because obviously you always name check yourself, is it's nice to be name checked in these files. And there's some vindication here of independent exclusives. There's a exchange, rather enjoying the Who is David Maddox ribbing I'm now getting from colleagues from around the lobby. On my story on the on Mandelson potentially having his credentials rejected by Donald Trump, but more importantly, the revelation we made back in September last year that he failed his security vetting. Whilst we're not name checked in that, it's clear that our report on it had created alarms. There's a number of exchanges on that, not least about trying to protect the Prime Minister, which is a little bit shocking, but this is all very bad news for the Prime Minister. What kind of stood out for you, Kate?
I think so much of it really jumps out of the page, from the big important things about what it can tell you about what's going wrong with this government, to the small details. I cannot tell you there are many messages while many people in number 10 and many people in the Foreign Office run around like headless chickens trying to get a red box so that they can present it as a present to to Donald Trump when they go to Washington. And at one point Peter Mandelson describes it as like something out of the thick of it, and I think all of us can only just agree with him on that.
Yeah, some of it, to be honest, if it had been in the thick of it, we'd say it was a little bit over-exaggerated.
Yes, it's too on the nose, it would have been rejected.
I'm particularly enjoying the lines about West Streeting having an early midlife crisis and being pathetic, which I'm sure that if there is a leadership contest soon and West Streeting is in it, will be circulated and infinitum by his rivals. So, and then there's poor old Pat McFadden, loyal Pat.
Yes, he does appear in quite a lot of it, and you've got to wonder, is it because some of his cabinet colleagues were a bit quicker about turning off their messages and making sure that they had disappearing messages on WhatsApp, and then that he didn't. But there's a huge number of discussions between him and Peter Mandelson, again, about what's going wrong with the government. At one point after the welfare rebellion last autumn, they're both talking about how bad it is, and Peter Mandelson actually speculates at that stage about whether Keir Starmer can even survive it.
So this is one of my takes of this, is whatever you think about Peter Mandelson, we have to be aware that there's ongoing legal proceedings, so we can't stray too far into those things. But you know, a lot of what he's saying, a lot of his analysis is dead on, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, I think that's true. I think that's fair. I think you probably see why he was hired for this job, which is not to say that there weren't warning signals that should have been listened to at the time, but I think it's to say that, you know, if people are coming to this a bit fresh, that, you know, he had huge skills for this job, and he wasn't hired for nothing. He wasn't just hired because he was a well-known figure. It wasn't just jobs for the boys. It was that there were serious skills that they thought he could employ. But some of it is very damning about what's going wrong within Labour.
And it's quite clear to me as well that this idea that he was only the US ambassador, that it was limited to this role, is now dead in the water. Yeah. It's quite clear that his tentacles are spread throughout the government. His influence is everywhere. And really, you know, I mean, you just need to look at the exchanges with Peter Kyle about Peter Kyle did a whole speech based on Mandelson complaining to him about the negative view of AI. Yeah, and it's completely off the books, and it's quite stunning for a man, undoubted abilities, but who'd been sacked twice. Let's not forget, sacked twice. Had known bad relationships with various parties, including the Jeffrey Epstein issue. Had such influence and such control over this country.
Yeah.
I suppose we need to touch on this government by WhatsApp business, because I seem to remember Labour in opposition complaining a lot about the Tories doing government by WhatsApp. And you're on your own former beat as a health reporter. You kept a close eye on the COVID inquiry, and wasn't government by WhatsApp supposed to be dead after the COVID inquiry?
It was certainly supposed to be one of the lessons that was learned.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that yes, there's a lot of government discussions by WhatsApp in this report. Actually, there's quite an interesting aside where one of the younger ministers, Keir Mather, Lord Mandelson is looking for his number and asks from somebody else, gets the number and says, oh yes, that's the one I have, he's not picking up, which might show a generational divide in people who believe in government by WhatsApp and those who don't. You know, Peter Mandelson is.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody reminded him.
But we should say one of the missing things from this is Peter Mandelson's own WhatsApps.
Yes.
Because he did not give over his phone. So there's this missing gap in the middle of this as well, which is, I think, fascinating in and of itself.
He's been quite astute in the way he has used private equipment, private emails to do some of the things he's done. I mean, the infamous one going back was him sending a statement, Gordon Brown's government, on the bailout to Jeffrey Epstein using his private emails. Of course, it never got picked up by the government, and you can understand why he's fighting for dear life to have his private messages protected.
And of course, we only discovered that because it was in a tranche that the DOJ in America had. That was not something that came out through the British government.
And it's interesting that even now the government's asking for more DOJ stuff from America to find out what Mandelson was actually up to. I don't think there's a killer blow here for Keir Starmer. You could argue that the killer blow's already been delivered and it's kind of just draining the life out of his government slowly and waiting for Andy Burnham possibly from Labour to see. But it's it does kind of confirm a lot of what we thought was bad about this government.
Yeah, and actually I do think that is quite a significant blow. There was an awful lot of talk, if you remember, whenever they were first pulling together these documents, that they wanted to get them out the door as fast as possible. They believed that they didn't really think that there was that much that would be damaging about them, and I think that has been proven to be wrong.
Well, we're only just starting on these amazing 3 volumes. There's going to be, I've got a feeling it's going to be revelations throughout the week. I mean, just to give you a flavour, in the budget books, when we do a budget, there's usually about 4 or 5 days of stories as people go through the detail and suddenly find something else. I mean, the caravan tax, I think, was my favourite, the pasty tax.
Yes, the pasty tax, which definitely a few days to emerge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So do not be surprised if you're going to be reading and hearing about this an awful lot right up to the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely.